Hi everyone, and welcome to Tech Down Over. I'm Riggs Zanatti, and I'm joined today by Howard Muliati. Jeff Blanchard couldn't make it today. He's actually off on vacation, but he couldn't make it to the show. So usually he's here on Fridays. So he apologized. He really wanted to meet our guest today, Doug Kaye, but another time it shall be. So let's get started. And we are back, and right there in our center position of power, total power today. We've got with us Doug Kaye. Doug Kaye, you know what, Doug? I fell in love with you when I first saw you on podcasts. I think you were on This Week in Photography originally, then the one with Gordon. And I go, he's wearing Hawaiian shirts. He's cool. That's it. He's it. But no, as we looked at your background and things you've done, you're a real Renaissance guy, and that's also fun because hard to find Renaissance people today who've done a lot of different things and in an interesting way. So let's see, you graduated from Berkeley, theater lighting. Now that's fascinating because most people who don't know anything about theater don't realize how complex and hard it is to get theater lighting right. That's not an easy task, is it?
It was a good challenge, that's for sure.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Then you went to NYU, one of the better, a lot of people, again, who don't know about NYU, great film and production school. They have some wonderful teachers there. You got a degree from NYU in video and film production, right? In direction?
Yeah, film and television, yep.
Film and television. Yep. Then you were a TV guy for a while.
Yeah, when I got out of school, of course, you get out of film school and you say, hello, world, I'm a film director, and the world doesn't even pay any attention to you at all.
Yeah.
But I did go on. I produced a couple of films and worked in television news for a while, and then moved back into the post-production side.
That's pretty cool. And then I remember reading in your bio, you loved doing landscape for a while, and then that was it. You were done. No more landscaping.
Well, that's the thing with photography. You get involved, and there's so many different genres and things.
Mm-hmm.
There's portrait, there's landscape, there's sports, there's all sorts of stuff. And I sort of went through all of them until I discovered street photography. But as you mentioned, what cured me of landscape photography was going to Iceland, which is one of the ultimate places for landscape photographers. Yeah. I'll tell you a story about that you'll enjoy. I use it when I teach street photography. It's a slide I put up. And the slide is the 10 most important things for landscape photography. And it says sturdy tripod, waterproof clothes, get up early, stay out late, all these things. And I said, these are the 10 things that a street photographer doesn't do. When the weather's bad, you stop, you have a latte. You don't get up too early. You don't stay up too late.
Yeah.
It's a much easier lifestyle than people who are good and serious landscape photographers.
Though you do have to watch those people sometimes. I know every so often people say, "You taking my picture?" No, not at all. Oh, okay. And of course you did take their picture, but you don't have to tell them. But it is sort of interesting because depending where you are, some people get really upset about street food. If they think you're taking their pictures, some people get a little bummed out, and other times, nobody cares. If you're in a big city, probably nobody would even notice you taking pictures. But it is interesting. It's an interesting, I find it fascinating. I like street photography too, just getting people at their most natural best, aside from the people landscapes of the cities they're in and stuff. I really enjoy that. Where do you like taking the street photography most? Do you have any specific places you like best?
Well, I live just 12 miles from San Francisco, so I try to get there once a week. One of the reasons we couldn't do the show on Friday and I couldn't talk to Jeff was because Friday's usually my day to shoot in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
But any good city, in the spring I went to Hong Kong for a week. Hong Kong is great. Paris is marvelous, although talking about, people who don't want to be photographed. In Paris, the laws are different. You're not technically allowed to take a photograph without someone's permission in Paris, although we do it anyway.
Yeah.
So it varies, but, New York, spectacular place, of course. I love New York.
I'm actually going to London in about 3 months for a trade show, And I go, got to bring a camera. I'm not sure what I'm going to bring yet. I'm debating if I'm going to take the Panasonic G9, which I love. That camera is pretty amazing. Or the Canon EOS-R, which I just got, which I also enjoy. It's not a perfect camera, but it's not bad. It takes good pictures. And so I'm debating, what do I want? I took the G9 to Hawaii this year, pretty much when it just came out, and we did a little review on it and took a lot of pictures. I think you guys reviewed the G9, and that camera is pretty darn amazing for the price and what it does, and even the focus. Everybody complains about Panasonic focus, but it's not bad. It's actually pretty good, and I'm not doing sports with it, so I don't notice any tracking issues. But it does well. It even does well on the podcasting side of it when you're filming yourself. Not bad.
Yeah, it's very good for that. And we just reviewed the EOS-9, the EOS-R about a month ago too. So
yeah, how'd you like it? I did see the review, but did you have a chance to play with it, or was it only Gordon?
No, only Gordon, because he got one from Canon. Had to send it back right after he did the review, and I haven't had a chance to get my hands on one yet.
It's fun.
I actually went to the local camera store, and they didn't have them yet.
They didn't have them. No, they're hard to get.
No.
I got one of the pre-orders. I was early on the list, and I got ours from Sammy's down here, and it's been fun. I actually like the camera. There's a couple of things I kind of hated at first, like that multi-function bar. Well, I didn't bring it. It's in my office over here, but and then I realized there's a setting that enables the multi-function bar always, and I went, thank you. Because my thumb's not hitting it normally from the way I put it, but if your thumb would be up there, you'd activate it all the time. And I have it set to ISO, and it would go crazy. But to just move it up and down, it's pretty easy. And now that I have it activated, because for the first 3 weeks I had it, this thing sucks. It doesn't work. I keep hitting it. And then I saw something where it said you have to hold it for 2 seconds. 2 seconds. All right, didn't work. Maybe 1 second, maybe 3. It's just, I think it's based on how much heat you have in your finger at any one time, and then it either works or it doesn't. If you're outside and if your hands are cold, it won't work that well. If you're warm, it's like an elevator button. When you're really freezing, it may not work that because your circulation hasn't gone back down. But it's interesting. Now that I have it set to always on, it works almost all the time, and it's interesting. I wish I had a dial over that. I think it's just more accurate, and it's easier to just flip it with your thumb with a dial than it is to slide it. I don't know. I guess I'll get used to it, but that was my only major complaint. I wish it had more dials. And
well, you're the expert. Since I haven't actually had my hands on one, you've got a lot more time with it than I do.
Yeah, I don't know, because they put one of those little things on top where it tells you what mode you're in.
Right.
I have a display in a viewfinder. Isn't that enough? No, you have to look up like this. So that's a throwback to the DSLR days where you just go, why? Why are you wasting that space when you could have had a couple of dials? My kingdom for a dial, anything. But no. So that was a little irritating with it. But the camera shoots beautiful pictures. I've seen some reviewers that didn't like the softness of the video. Well, yeah, if you don't set the sharpness up front, you're not going to get a very sharp video. If you set your sharpness to 4 or I think it's 7, then the video looks fine. If you leave it at 0, it's pretty soft. I mean, more than Canon soft. So Canon's soft anyway, but it's really soft. But so the reviewers are kind of giving it a bum rap when you go, wait a minute. Now Gordon doesn't. He's pretty on these things. He doesn't. And in fact, I was watching the review when he was going, you get a horrible crap in 4K, but if you put a 10 to 18 millimeter lens, EFS lens, it's perfect. I tried it.
Yeah.
I bought that 10 to 18. Works like a champ.
It's not an obvious combination, but it works well.
I know, you wouldn't think it would work. I was going 10 to 18. Perfect. It actually looks good. It's a pretty well focused lens. It's got a good STM motor, and it's not as fast. It's like a 4 point something to a 5.6. So it's not the fastest thing on earth, but for most situations it works well. And putting ISO up pretty high doesn't seem to really cause too much grief. So yeah, it's not a bad camera. I know a lot of people hate it, but I kind of like it personally. And I'm waiting for them to do a 5D Mark IV version of it. that has all the features rather than the crippled Canon first shot. I don't know why they do that, but nobody can figure out Canon. So, well, now I think you used to shoot.
One of life's mysteries.
I know. You were a Nikon guy, right? At one point.
Yes, I shot Nikon for many years. Yeah.
How do you like it? Do you still like it?
I don't own a single piece of Nikon. Oh, I do. I have some Nikon strobes are sitting around here somewhere, but that's it. I got rid of my last. The last thing I had Nikon seriously was a Nikon macro lens, because I was using it with my Sony cameras. Then when Sony came out with a good macro lens, I sold the Nikon one.
So are you using Sony now mostly?
I counted the other day. I have 14 cameras, so it's mostly Sony and Leica, those two. And,
interesting.
Half of them are film cameras.
Oh. Now, Leica's interesting because they've got this deal with Panasonic right now. I'm really curious how that's going to work out. It's a weird combination of Panasonic, Leica, and Sigma. A very odd combination. I don't know if they're going to make that work or not, but it's going to be real interesting. I have Leica lenses on the Panasonic Micro Four Thirds line, and they're pretty incredible. I especially my Nocticron, the f1.2, that 42.5 millimeter, which is equivalent to about an 85 millimeter. That thing is an amazing lens at night or even daytime. It's beautiful, but Leica makes some beautiful lenses. They're expensive, but God, they're good.
Yeah. Well, Leica and Panasonic teamed up many years ago. I mean, really right after Micro Four Thirds got started. And I referred to them for a long time as Lino lenses. That's Leica in name only. Because, you can buy a Micro Four Thirds lens with the name Leica on it and spend, $700 or $800. But the Leica lenses that you otherwise buy, what I call the true Leica lenses, are, $3,000 to $7,000 per lens. So I think it's important you shouldn't expect to have the same quality. Now, they're good lenses, but they're certainly not the quality that you get with the small Leica primes. The Leica primes that you spend many thousands on have no autofocus. They're manual everything, but they're just gorgeous. And they're also tiny. They're even smaller than the Micro Four Thirds lenses.
That's true. They're pretty amazing. And like you said, they're expensive. That 42.5 millimeter Nocticron I have for Micro Four Thirds, that was about a $1,500 lens. And that was about as expensive as it gets on Micro Four Thirds for the most part. And it's a beautiful prime. It really is. Now, again, they're Leica designed, but Panasonic built. And I think they're built in China, but I'm not 100% sure. I mean, there's still the 42.5 is well built. That's all metal. There's no plastic in that one. Whereas some of the other ones have a little bit of plastic, and they're not great in terms of quality, but they're not bad. And the picture quality is very good. Video is okay too. But you're right, my dad had was it a Leica Flex? I think that's what he had. This is a long time ago. And that was a nice camera back then. And then he went to a Nikon, and he also had the, what's it called? Slipping my tongue. The ones you look down on.
A Rolleiflex or a Hasselblad?
Rolleiflex, yeah, Rolleiflex, which I thought was fun. It was a cute camera.
I've got one of each of those.
Do you really?
Yeah, sure.
All film.
Yeah, I do medium format, and I also shoot large format. I have 3 4x5 speed graphics that I play with also. Nice.
Now, what do you think? I mean, as medium format, now there is a difference between the medium format cameras of old and new, even some of the digital ones. But you've got kind of incursions into medium format by Fuji, by Canon with the 5DSR. Do you consider those medium formats?
Well, it's a terminology issue. Real medium format to me is 2¼ by 2¼ inches.
Yeah.
And the sensors in the in the phase 1 and the Fuji are nowhere near that large. They're certainly big in terms of megapixels. They're 50 megapixels and more. Yep. But the actual sensor size is not nearly as big as what you get in a Hasselblad or a Rolleiflex. Some people are actually doing digital backs on Hasselblads.
I've seen that.
They cost a fortune.
$20,000, $25,000?
$50,000, $60,000.
50, 60.
Yeah, somewhere in that price range. So I don't even have a way to borrow one, let alone buy one.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, Harold, that we've been ignoring you. You've been quiet.
Oh yeah, well, Doug, while you're doing street photography, what do you do if you're someplace like Paris where they have sort of strict laws or strict rules on public photography, and someone starts to raise a stink? What do you? How do you get out of that, basically?
Well, there are a number of things you can do. The first, of course, is, are you shooting a candid shot or are you shooting a portrait? If it's a portrait, that implies either explicit or implicit permission up front. So you may go and you talk to somebody and you find out who they are and get their story and then say, may I take your photograph? May I make a portrait of you? So that's a no-brainer, right? That's an easy one. If you're photographing strangers, again, you have two different ways you're doing that. One is you may be photographing the person and trying to capture their essence. The other might be that you're photographing a scene and the person is really just a graphic element. You might just get their profile. They might be relatively small in the frame. But in any case, if you don't have permission up front and somebody's not happy about it, the main thing is to smile. And if, sometimes I'll take a picture of someone and then I'll walk up to them. And if I'm doing it on a digital camera instead of film, I'll show them the picture on the back of the camera. They'll say, why did you take my picture? And I better have a good answer for that. If you don't have a good answer for why you're taking their picture, you shouldn't take their picture, because why are you doing it? Usually it's because I find you interesting, I like your hair, I like your shoes, or you look really good in that light or against that background.
Yeah.
So you want to have a conversation. Now, if somebody's just angry, you just say, you smile, you say, I'm sorry, you can offer to delete the picture if it's not film. Sometimes they get agitated, it can get physical. I've never been hurt by anybody, but most people who don't shoot street, that's their first question, which is, what about confronting people and getting into trouble and making people angry? Most of the stuff I shoot, I'm not in a situation where someone's going to get pissed. They might be confused as to why the hell I'm pointing a camera there. The other thing is that if you're shooting on the street, a lot of it isn't the photography. A lot of it is walking around, becoming comfortable with the street. And if you're in a place, if you're on a street corner, let's say, and you're there for 20 minutes, you own it. It's your place. If somebody else comes in, they're walking into your frame, right? And so it's their problem, not yours.
Yeah.
It's when you go out and you are walking around and you walk into a new space where somebody exists and you take their picture. That's a different situation.
Yeah, it's funny. When I've done street photography, I like to sit somewhere, cross my leg, put the camera on top and look the other way, and I'm just filming or kind of pointing the picture where I know I'm fairly stable, so I know I can get some good shots. And I've never had anybody figure out what I was doing. They just figured I was just looking lost, confused, and just not even taking pictures because it doesn't look like my camera's on. And that seems to work. I've done that with cell phones too, and it's even easier on a cell phone because they just figure you're between calls or between something or other. And it's pretty good. I've never been in that situation where I've gotten accosted or somebody screamed at me or anything either. I've had people look at me a little funny, but then I ignore them. I act like I didn't really take your picture. It's like, no, you're not even there. And then they just kind of go, oh, okay, and they just walk away. But it is interesting because some people, I guess it depends on the city too. Some people don't care that much. And other people get a little, I think in New York, nobody really cares. I've taken, and people are so used to seeing anything in New York, they just ignore you. I took what I loved about New York was not only the picture, the street part of it in terms of people, but the buildings. It was fun. It's just like San Francisco. You've got so much choice in architecture that it's sort of fun. It's not really a landscape. It's just some quick building shots. And I was shooting, in New York, I went with, at that time, a Nikon D750. And I love that camera. It was actually good, but I didn't want to invest in Nikon at the time. But I love that one camera. And I took some shots of buildings in New York from the street level all the way on looking up. And I was shocked at how well that camera performed. It was clean. I know they had 3 recalls on it. Mine never got recalled, and eventually I sold it. But it was a great camera. And Nikon does take nice pictures. I mean, they do a nice job with that. I like Canon too. I've shot a lot with Canons, and I just have to know what to expect more, but I love the color. on Canon, I've never had a problem with color. It always just looks good, and sometimes a little soft, depending on the camera again. But other times, wow, it comes out so sharp. Like I shot with the 7D Mark II quite a bit, and that thing was amazing. It could shoot fast or anything else you wanted. For an APS-C camera, I thought it was better than some of the Canon full framers, and it was pretty amazing. And again, it had the same body. So once you know one of them, you know almost all of them. They're very similar. But now you were shooting Micro Four Thirds too, if I recall correctly.
Never have. Only for reviews. I've never owned a Micro Four Thirds camera.
So what do you think of the 4/3?
It's fine. It's great. I mean, I think, when mirrorless cameras first got started, everybody was touting the fact that they were smaller. Yeah. And that was the big advantage. Of course, now you get things like the Sony Mark III series, and they're as big as any DSLR. So people, I think it was sort of a red herring to say, oh, it's all about the size. Mm-hmm. There are some real advantages. I mean, I have friends, for example, who do bird photography, and you put a 300 millimeter lens on a Micro Four Thirds camera, and you've got the equivalent of a 600 millimeter on a full frame in a pretty small package. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the great pluses is a long focal length work like bird photography, and the cameras are compact. Now, in the last 6 months or so, there's been a lot of talk that Micro Four Thirds is sort of waning. It's not as popular as it was in the past. Yeah. And you see people like Panasonic looking at and Olympus looking at full frame as an example, moving there. They're going to maybe skip APS-C and go straight to full frame.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I do wonder, because having two full lines is hard. It's also, they compete against each other, as we've seen even with Canon. They compete against their cinema line, their full frame line, their APS-C line, and their micro, smaller camera line. It's like, my gosh, it never ends. And every camera is crippled a bit more as you work your way up to the cinema line. And even the cinema lines cripple themselves, which is just hilarious. It's like, when does it end? So, I can definitely see your point there. I do wonder what Panasonic's going to do with that. I think it's SR and SR1. It'll be interesting. They're sticking with the focus system, which I think is a mistake. For photos, it's pretty good, but if they start doing video, we have had some issues. And in fact, Harold and I was going to talk to Harold today about we need to upload the new firmware for the G9, the GH5. We've got 2 GH5s and 1 G9. And, you were talking about 18 cameras. I think I sold 20 cameras this year. I literally, I sold all the Sonys we had. I sold quite a few of the Canons.
I think there were at least, 5 camcorders, too?
5 camcorders we sold, and we sold a lot of stuff. And it was due. It was time. I was tired of having 30 different things, and we weren't getting to them all the time, and why ignore them? I couldn't use them that much. And we said, yeah, let's sell it. Now we're starting to slowly, and it's real slowly getting back. We did buy some camcorders recently, the Canon XF405s. And they're good. They actually work really well for events and things like that. We shot some events with it, and it worked fine, and the quality was good. I started out more with camcorders than I did with photo cameras, though I've had photo cameras. I always did video more. So for the camcorder for video seemed to make sense 20-something years ago. Today we do a combination of both. We'll shoot videos with DSLRs or the DSMs, the mirrorless, but still like camcorders. They still work well for certain things. But I was going to ask you, how did you and Graham get together? Gordon,
you mean?
Yep.
Well, in the reviewing business, most of the reviewers tend to know one another, and I've known Gordon as a friend and as a reviewer for many years. I was doing over at the Trip Network. I started a show called All About the Gear.
Yes.
And it was me and Frederick Van Johnson. And over time, what happened was I was doing the reviews. What happened was I was spending so much you get a camera and you have a camera for a week. It takes a whole week to learn how to use a camera thoroughly. Yep. So every week or 2 weeks, I'd get a new camera. Well, I was spending all the time doing reviews and not doing my own photography, and that was sort of getting annoying. Well, Gordon if you know Gordon at Cameralabs.com, he does the most thorough reviews on the internet.
They're amazing.
There's nobody who does what he does.
Yep.
So I approached Gordon. I said, Gordon, look, I'm going to swap roles here. If you'd come on the show with me, I'll interview you. You do the review. I did the post-production and the production work. And so Gordon was the expert ultimately on all about the gear, and I interviewed him. And then Frederick sort of took a break from things at the Trip Network, and things were more or less stopped for a while. And Gordon and I went off and just did it as a separate show at Cameralabs.
That's great. Actually, you guys do a real good job together. When I ran it, I've been watching Gordon. He's been doing this at least 9 years, if not longer, on the reviews, the Cameralabs reviews back when, and then he started doing some simple podcasts by himself, but they were good. And I've emailed with him a couple of times, so I got to know him a little bit via emails, and we've invited him on the show a couple of times, and I think now he said he's going to come on soon. He's busy. It's hard to get a hold of him. He's always traveling too. Right. But he does a great job with the cameras. I have bought quite a few cameras based on his reviews, and he hasn't erred once. He's good. And then you guys together make a good combo. I think you guys do a good podcast. It's one of the better ones out there for camera reviews. And you don't tell people what to buy, which a lot of the other quote-unquote pundits do. And then it's all about affiliate links. They're constant pointing down at and I go... And I watch some of the guys doing the affiliate links. It's sort of interesting. They are killing themselves for $1,000 a month. It's like, really? I mean, is it that worth it? It's not. To me, it's not worth it. You can do filming and do some production work and get that in a whole lot less time than trying to build an enormous following. So, no, you guys do a great job. We've always been impressed.
Thanks very much.
Both of you. I really enjoy both of you. And when we invited you on was when we heard that you had gotten into that accident. We were like, hope you're okay. And you were even great there. You were very congenial on your email responses and stuff. So we went, oh, good. At least he's good. So now you do another thing that's interesting. You do auto mods. You do car modifications, don't you?
Well, not normal. I mean, when I was 18 to 22, I did a lot of car stuff, but not much since then. But what happened was when my car was totaled in an accident, I had a Tesla Model 3 on order.
Oh, nice.
I'd had it on order for over 2 years.
Yep.
So, of course, I got home from the hospital. 2 days after I get home from the hospital, I mean, I can't even get out of bed by myself without help. The phone rings. Mr. Kaye, this is Tesla. Your car's ready. You have to be in Fremont tomorrow to pick it up.
Oh,
and you have to bring your wife because she has to countersign too. I said that is not going to happen. So Tesla ended up delivering the car to my home. Sat in the garage for 2 months. I couldn't drive it, but I was able to start doing mods. So they're all superficial things. It's all decorative stuff, but I've had a lot of fun tricking out the car. That's for sure.
It's a beautiful car too. How do you like the Tesla?
It's terrific. It is absolutely the best car I've ever owned.
Really?
There's no doubt. It's not perfect. I mean, you get on the Tesla forums, you'll see there's all sorts of problems with it, but overall, there's nothing like it. And it's a computer with 4 wheels.
Yeah.
The driving part of it is it handles beautifully. It's really fun to drive, but it's also an amazing digital experience as well.
Interesting. Now that's 100% electrical, correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What kind of range do you get on that?
My version has 310 mile range.
Well, that's pretty good. That's not bad at all.
That's the long range version.
And it has the quick charge thing too. I've seen that. They have something. What does it charge, like in an hour or something?
In an hour, if I stop for an hour, I can go almost from empty to full. That's at a supercharger, one of their superchargers. At home, I'm charging at a lower current, so I can't get it. It doesn't charge that fast, but you park it at night, you just plug it in, and it's fully charged the next morning.
That's nice. We live not too far from Westlake Village, California, which is
you're in fire territory.
Yeah, there's a movie theater there that has about 8 or 10 Tesla charging stations. I drove by one day, go, look at that. They just upgraded that whole area to Tesla charging. I was going, how cool. And sure enough, there's about 4 or 5 there being charged. I guess it's an area that buys a lot of Teslas. Even where we are, I see my share. Now, is the 3 the SUV one, or it looks more like a sport
No.
activity vehicle?
The 3 is the new little one.
I've
So
seen
you have
that,
you have the Model S, which is the big 4-door sedan.
Yes.
Then you have the X, which is the SUV with
That's the SUV.
the gull wing doors.
Yeah.
What do they call them? Falcon wing doors. And then the
Yes.
Model 3 is mine, which is a little bit smaller and less expensive than the Model S.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I was a week ago. Came down your way, so normally I charge at home. With 310-mile range, I don't need any other charging. I can drive all day and go anywhere I want to go and come home and it charges. But my wife and I decided to go to Pasadena to visit our son, so we did our first supercharger trip. And I was sort of anxious about it up front. Turns out it is so easy. I mean, you've got all these electric cars, BMWs, Nissans, now you have Jaguars, Porsches are coming out, but nobody has this supercharger network. So we just, got on the freeway, we drove most of the way on I-5, and, you stop every 90 minutes, you use the bathroom, you get a little something to eat, your car's on a supercharger, you come back out, you're ready to go.
Interesting.
It is so well done, it's just amazing.
That's great. That's great. And they look nice too. I have seen yours. I was trying to remember which one the 3 was.
Oh, look at that picture. What a beautiful car that is.
Yeah. What kind of mods did you do on it?
Well, that you can't tell from that picture, but that car is wrapped with XPEL stealth vinyl. So the whole car has a matte finish, and then on top of that, it's a ceramic pro crystal coat. So it's got a ceramic coating over the top. The calipers, I painted the calipers red. There you go. They're my red calipers. The interior, lots of mods there. Don't have any pictures online of those yet, but there's a wood grain dash thing, which is really out of place. I covered that with vinyl as well. So I just had a lot of fun.
It does sound like
nothing
fun.
Nothing too significant.
Yeah, it does sound like fun. Well, Doug, we are at the end of our time. Sorry we got a late start. We were having a problem with gremlins called Skype and vMix call. We couldn't get either to work well for a while, but we're good now. And Doug, we just really appreciate you coming on, getting to meet you a bit. We've been fans for quite a while. So you guys do great work with what you're doing with Gordon and the stuff you've done. And I remember watching you on Twit as well before. And you do good work. We really appreciate the stuff you do and how you contribute to this whole community and everything else. So thanks for being there. And, hey, thanks for coming on. We appreciate that and hope we get you on again another time.
My pleasure. Be glad to come back, and it's great to meet you both.
Oh, that sounds great.
Great to meet you, Doug.
And Harold got like 6 words in, which is good. So
hey, remember, say hi to Jeff for me.
I will. He was sad he couldn't. And he was off today. That's the bad part. He goes, I'm off, but I'm not at home. So he was gone for the day, and he's been enjoying his GH5. He just got himself a GH5. He has some Canon cameras and camcorders, but he finally got himself a mirrorless, and he's been pretty happy. Oh no, he had the FZ. I'm starting to say Z with him. My God, the FZ25. He's got the FZ1000.
You're listening to Jeff and Gordon too much. I walk around talking about the Z100
I know.
or something like that.
Yeah,
it's like
I was telling Rick there's a good chance that Jeff's watching us right now and wishing that he'd come on.
Yeah, he would have enjoyed.
Hello, Jeff.
So hello,
Well, I
Jeff.
can be Jeff for a moment. Hello, I am Jeff Blanchard. There. Now you heard Jeff. So.
All right.
Anyway, well, Doug, appreciate it. You have a great rest of week and a happy Thanksgiving coming up. We're all waiting to eat.
Same to you.
Thank you much, and have a good one. Take care, Doug. Thank you much.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, bye everyone, and we'll see you next time.